What is hoped to be achieved? This is about shining a light on Sweden, on the ecosystem, but also, well, Swedish principles in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So Daniel initially set up the Brilliant Minds Foundation with his board, which consists of some influential Swedish families, to bring Swedish values to creatives, builders, innovators from across the world. So every June, kind of mid-June, actors, activists, some of the people who you've highlighted already, descend on Stockholm during one of the most beautiful periods of the year and enjoy a 2-day conference where they discuss kind of creative ideas and the vision for the future of how the world might look in a positive sense. So, in Brilliant Innovators, what we're trying to do is extend that to the startup ecosystem and say, how can Swedish ideals of sustainability, of inclusivity, how can we highlight European startups that are promoting these ideals?
And you've singled out as a winner this year a French startup that is all about sustainability, particularly in aircraft, right? You're shining a light on one particular company. It's about hydrogen propulsion. What got you there for this particular set of founders and business that they're trying to build?
It was a combination both of the vision, which is so let me take a step back. So the business is Beyond Aero. It's as you say, French business focused on hydrogen fuel cell transport in the private aviation space. And that business has a massive opportunity to take an enormous amount of carbon out of air travel and essentially kind of, one of the biggest polluters in terms of kind of carbon emissions in the European landscape, to take a huge amount of carbon out of that. It was a combination of that proposition, that vision, and then the quality of the pitch and of the team, huge number of industry experts aligning around a shared cause. And again, to speak to those ideals of teamwork, of having a kind of collective long-term principle in mind when you develop a product, it really spoke to the judges.
Was there any commonality, Bob, between the founders and the startups that entered the competition? Were they heavily AI focused, for example?
Interesting. So I've been watching your tech show for some time, and obviously kind of in recent days and weeks, the focus has been very, very much on AI. Actually, relatively little mention of AI in the startups that we looked at, which was strange. There was a skew towards material science, how to innovate in manufacturing, innovate in heavy industry, with the thinking that, a big part of the reason that startups were entering was part of a sustainability theme, part of a long-termism around the environment and around other kind of cultural issues related to pollution. So actually AI, despite the focus of things kind of more generally within tech and within my space in B2B software in the last few weeks, AI was absent.
Bob, earlier in the show, we had Marcelo Claure on about his new venture firm, Bicycle. I'm sure you're familiar with Marcelo, and he's all about Latin America. Let's talk a little bit about Sweden with you. I'm here in San Francisco. The history of this place in Silicon Valley is that you have Stanford. A lot of people focused on computing and software. They found companies. The VCs all moved here. Is there an equivalent thing going on out in Sweden and Nordic nations right now?
Yes, absolutely. And I would say to some extent it's already happened. So the European Investment Fund and EIS have highlighted in their annual report that they do kind of ranking European geographies on the basis of various innovation metrics. Sweden's been the top country in Europe for a number of years. And that's driven by, quality of education, but also that first cohort of great Swedish startups has now gone beyond the point where they've, a lot of the founders have exited, they've become public businesses, and you have those initial set of founders reinvesting in the next cohort of startups. So, to take Brilliant Minds as an example, it's a foundation set up by Daniel Ek, and, the support for that foundation is driven by the fantastic success that he's achieved with Spotify. So, Spotify, Klarna, iZettle, these great Swedish technology institutions now are feeding back into that early stage ecosystem, and also, there's a great kind of private capital ecosystem that's developed here over the course of really 20 years, which we're very happy to play a small part in.
What's interesting, Caroline, every day on Venture Spotlight we have VCs from around the world, and if they're American, we pose the question: are you looking outside of the US in terms of where you're writing checks and looking for opportunity?
And what caught my eye actually on LinkedIn today was Niklas Zennström, of course, another key Swedish founder, founded Skype, gone on to have Atomico, a very successful VC in the space. He's put out a thought leadership piece today, Bob, all about why Europe's going to be the next area of innovation, why checks should be being written there. But look, Ed and I have both been based in Europe. We've both talked about technology there. And it was always this wringing of hands that there's never quite been the moment that they powered through, that they were able to put their stamp on it. Do you think this is different? Do you think ultimately that we shouldn't always be that one area or region will win out vis-a-vis another, all can do well, and will eventually American money come in a more significant way to Europe?
I think we've definitely seen, particularly in a kind of low interest rate environment, particularly during COVID in the B2B software space, we've seen a huge amount of American money come to Europe. And, I will say to some extent, we're seeing it leave again now, given the economy and given the pricing of technology businesses. But I think the development of European ecosystems, initially in places like London and Berlin, but now, in the Nordics, not just Stockholm, but Copenhagen, Helsinki, we're seeing a great startup ecosystem develop in the Baltics, particularly in Estonia and Tallinn, but more broadly than that. I think it's really driven actually not by the influx of American money, but by the recycling of capital from cohorts of great technology businesses, to take stock. We've given a Swedish example, but to take Estonia as an example, Pipedrive, great B2B software business, sells globally, is now a global business, but a lot of that capital gets recycled into the Estonian ecosystem and becomes fuel for the next generation of seed stage Estonian startups.
What's interesting, of course, we were looking at some pictures of the company that's just won overall, Beyond Aero, and it was a lot of guy engineers in the pictures, and we're sat here with a white male VC, of course, but Brilliant Minds in and of itself is very diverse, female CEO, and also thinking about the people that they brought together in Sweden. How diverse is the European talent pool right now? How diverse are the founders that you're coming and seeing pitch to you?
So I would say the CEO of Beyond Aero, Eloa, is a woman, and unfortunately she wasn't pictured in the video. But just to can be clear about that, I think Sweden particularly does rank very highly, particularly in terms of gender diversity in companies. We're at a point where we're almost at kind of gender parity in terms of public company CEOs in Sweden, and I think that Sweden has been an early mover in the right direction. I think there is fundamentally in Europe, but also particularly within tech, still a long way to go in terms of diversity, and I think it's important that we're doing more on that. Brilliant Minds is leading the way, but I think we as a fund also lead the way, and we care very deeply about the diversity of our team and the diversity of the companies we invest in.